Welcome to Mount Diablo Unitarian Church. My name is Ondine Young, she, Annie, and I'm pleased that my kids are here to join us on Mother's Day. And we will be starting with 212. We are dancing Sarah's Circle, African American Spiritual, words by Carol E. Etzler. Please rise and body your spirit. For a variation of the hymn 211, we are climbing Jacob's ladder. The spiritual holds deep resonance for the descendants of enslaved Africans, for whom this song spoke of hope, salvation, and freedom. 212, we are dancing Sarah's Circle. Family, siblings, all.
You Good morning. Welcome to Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Rodney, and I use the pronouns of he and him. For those of us who are visiting this morning, welcome. We are really glad that you chose to spend some time during the week with us, either here in the sanctuary or in Borton Hall if you needed a little extra space, or even on our YouTube live stream. Everybody wave. Welcome back. If you have not been on our campus in a while, and this is the first time, welcome again. And for those online, please remember that we will have a virtual coffee hour, which will be held for 15 minutes right after the service. So that way you can say hello to everyone who's engaged with you in the YouTube chat, hopefully. And if you are visiting, rather virtual or in person, please fill out one of our visitors cards so that we can stay in touch with you. And that is at the Rainbow Table after the service in Borton Hall. For those who need a listening ear, we have pastoral listeners on campus, so you will be able to see them at the water column during offertory to identify. And just a reminder that today, following our service, we will have a viewing of Reverend Leslie Travis and my submission to this year's General Assembly of our association. It's a short film that serves as an overview of the Faith Without Walls initiative that Travis has been really key in lifting up this past year. And afterwards, we'll have a time for people to sign up to be more involved in Faith Without Walls if you choose to. And if you just are curious and want to chit-chat and talk and meet some people, please come anyway, and we are serving food. And probably coffee as well. And if you really care, it's Taco Bell. And if you have children or grandkids or friends with kids, maybe you would like to join us for our musical theater camp this summer, where we're going to be exploring the themes of equity, justice, and transformation through the lens of song, dance, and as Marina reminded me today, play. Welcome to this, our beloved community.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Shea. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. Welcome to our service. First of all, I want to honor that today is Mother's Day, and to honor all the mothers, past, present, and future, whether your kids have 2 legs or 4, or even scales. And particularly, I want to honor those people who are struggling to have the family that they want to have. Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church is a welcoming faith community. We begin our services by reading our mission together. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other and to our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. Folks, after a good start, our pledge drive is lagging, and this endangers our commitments to one another, and especially our commitments to those whom we employ and our commitments to this campus. We know that we're all dealing with inflation, and that includes our staff. If you haven't had a chance to pledge today, or pledge yet, there's a pledge box on campus, and you can always pledge online. Thanks for allowing us to move through our budgeting process as we collect pledges and try to find out how much funds do we have available. If you are new and have questions about pledging, any board member will be glad to answer them after the service. And welcome. It's good to be together online and in person.
And now, since this is Mother's Day, and we are going to talk today about embracing the divine feminine, maybe I can invite all of you to take a moment to turn to your neighbor and tell them that you're happy to see them and you see the divine feminine in them.
I'd like to invite those who are young and young at heart to come forward for a mindful moment. Come on down. So today I was thinking about lullabies, and when I was little, my parents used to sing lullabies to me every night before I would go to sleep. And I've been thinking about how I felt safe and protected in those lullabies. And that ritual was really important to me, and I did it with my babysitters, I did it with my aunts and uncles, I did it with my grandparents, and even now, when I feel a little bit stressed, I will sing some of those lullabies to myself. And I like to think of that as connecting with kind of that fierce maternal energy, but it doesn't have to necessarily come from the mom or from a woman. It could come from anybody. And that's something that we can tap into together as a community. So I would like to invite you to close your eyes and think about what it feels like to feel safe and protected by a fierce love, by a fierce protector. And I'd like, as you are reflecting on that, I'd like to invite you to hum the Brahms lullaby with me. Thank you.
I'm Catherine Lewis, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. Later today, the choir is going to be singing a song called Homeward Bound, and I was intrigued by the dueling themes of chain me not to the plow and I'll come home to you no matter what that are in the song. And this is a quote from Marta Keene, the composer of the song. Finding your true calling in life, knowing that those who love you trust that you will return. I wrote this song for a loved one who was embarking upon a new phase of life's journey to express the soul's yearning to grow and change.
So, hi everyone. I get to do the Time for All Ages. And I'm about to do something that every parent and every teacher in the audience is going to freak out about. Take a noisemaker and pass it around to all of the youth. You're going to be using those in a moment, which, to all of your dismay, is now. So I want to tell y'all a story of one of those examples of fierce love in the world. And this comes from our tradition of Hinduism. So once upon a time in a mystical land, there was a powerful goddess named Kali. Kali was known for her fierce energy, but also for her unwavering love and protection for those who sought her help. Now I need your help, not with the noisemakers yet, not quite yet, but can any of you show me a warrior pose, something that envisions what Callie is trying to do, protecting? How do you protect? What looks like protection for you? Oh, I like it, a hug. That's unexpected. Yeah, like, look, Marina's giving you great examples. So Kali had the skin color of midnight, with hair as black as the darkest sky. She wore a necklace made of skulls, each one representing a demon that she had previously conquered. And some think these also represented negative thoughts or emotions that she had resolved in herself over her lifetime. In one hand, she would hold a sword that cut through the illusions of this world, and in the other, a trident, which is like a three-pronged spear, that some say represented her ability to manipulate time, both the past, the present, and the future. But one day, a great demon threatened to wreak havoc on her lands, causing fear and chaos among all the people. And Kali sensed the distress of people and knew it was time to unleash her own fierce energy to restore balance. So how about raising your hands above your head like Kali did with her sword and her trident? Maybe shake. Now you can shake your noisemakers. So with that same kind of thunderous roar, Kali appeared before the demon. Her eyes were blazing red with determination, and she danced with abandonment, embodying the power of destruction and transformation. The demon trembled before her, realizing that even the fiercest foes must yield to the divine feminine energy of creation and destruction. As Kali's dance reached its peak, the demon was vanquished, turning into ashes and scattering in the wind. Peace and harmony were returned to the lands, and people rejoiced in Kali's victory. So now, if you want to help me again with the noisemakers and this phrase, we're going to honor the fierce goddess protecting the people by using those noisemakers and chanting Kali Ma, Kali Ma. Kali Ma, Kali Ma. Kali Ma, Kali Ma. Awesome. And so, with this story, we are reminded that everyone has within us the power to tap into that fierce energy when faced with our own challenges. We can embody the strength of Kali, the courage and compassion to overcome the obstacles that may come our way. And remember, just like Kali, you too can embrace this divine feminine energy in you, fierce and loving, ready to face the world with courage and determination. And now, I ask you to put your noisemakers back into the basket. And as we do that, we are going to sing the children off to their religious play.
Well, happy Mother's Day, everyone. It's nice you're here. I'm going to talk a little bit about my mom and my husband's Chris's mom to reflect on those relationships and the impact they had, not only on their family, but also on their respective communities. It's a bit ironic, too, that I'm up here talking about Mother's Day, since my husband and I have a son, male, obviously, and a grandson, male. And our son really doesn't have much of a relationship with women in his lives. We adopted him when he was 2 out of Mexico and have very little information on her. And our grandson, who spends a fair amount of time with us, really has only seen pets that are male. So not really sure how that happened. But be that as it may, Chris and I did have loving and present mothers. And for far too short of a time, our son had them as grandmothers. My mom disappeared into dementia when she succumbed when she turned about 80, and our son was about 7 at that point. And Chris lost his mom when our son was 11. However, in various ways, we were raised by strong women. My mom, Joan Blakiston Morse, and Chris's mom, Mary Deichler Carter, were leaders in their professional communities. Now, let's make it clear, just because we both had strong mothers, that had nothing to do with our sexual orientation. So let's put that old saw away. Our mothers, interestingly, or perhaps not so interestingly, did keep their maiden names. My mom dropped her middle name, which is Madeline. I can see maybe dropping that. Oh God, I hope nobody's named Madeline out here. And Chris's mom dropped her middle name too, and both adopted their maiden names as their middle names. Chris's mom, who was a delightful woman, was raised not far from the Susan B. Anthony National Historic Site in upstate New York and graduated from Simmons College in Boston. She went on to lead various administrative departments at Vermont's Goddard College and Norwich University. The latter was a military college who recruited Mary as their personnel director. She was a stylish woman. She always was hanging out at Talbot's. And only agreed to accept the position with one caveat: no way would she don a uniform. She retired, many years later, she retired from Norwich as chief of staff to the university's president. As I mentioned a bit earlier, she was a lovely woman and she had a lovely bond with her children, especially Chris, who is her oldest, but also with her 3 daughters. Her two youngest daughters, fraternal twins, were born weeks premature, as well as they were born in transit between rural Vermont headed to rural Hawaii, where they were going to be settling in the early 1960s in Kauai County. Now, this may bring up all sorts of images of Hawaiian paradise, but back in the early 60s, Kauai was quite rural. There was obviously concern back in the day with preemies and medical care, and at times preemies did suffer from medical issues, and many were compromised. Fortunately, although they were in rural Kauai, and it took months to really learn that the 2 kids were not compromised, either physically or cognitively. My mom, Joan B. Morse, was raised on Puget Sound in Washington, where she seeded her own beach with oysters and regularly swam to offshore islands. So I really didn't know her mother, my maternal grandmother. I believe she instilled in her a strong sense of tenaciousness. For my mom, this was incredibly important. You see, my mom was born with cerebral palsy, and it affected the left side of her whole body, so that her left arm was twisted, and she normally hid it behind her back, and she did walk with a noticeable limp. However, cognitively, she was not compromised. She graduated from the University of Washington at the early age of 21 with a master's degree in librarianship. This degree led her to positions at the University of Missouri as well as Wellesley College. She retired in a leadership position from the Santa Clara County Library System, and in my youth, I was generally unaware of her disability, in part because she was quite active. Family vacations were always taken to national parks where we camped and hiked. Needless to say, there were times when being one-armed or one-handed, was difficult for her. Certain advancements in technology, like power steering, she rejoiced in. One-hand driving. She was really quite skilled in doing almost everything with one hand. And one of the things that I still am amazed with is she diapered both her sons in the age when Velcro wasn't around with safety pins. And neither my brother nor I have any scars. Although things were really quite wonderful in my household, she also struggled with how the broader community viewed her. She was born in 1925, when disabilities were even more stigmatized as they are today. And a little shout out to all of us in this country that in the early 90s, we were able to pass the American Disabilities Act, and that went away towards reducing stigmatization. So, as I close, as many of us with moms or parents, or who are parents, you know that this holiday can be a joyous, if somewhat difficult, celebration of syrupy and sentimental cards, sky-high priced buffet brunches, and pink rose bouquets. However, I do find it rewarding to think of my mother first, as well as Chris's mom, as the girls who developed into the women they became, first and foremost. Secondarily, of course, they were our moms. So happy Mother's Day.
Please rise and body your spirit for Ancient Mother, traditional Navajo chant, it's 1069. This chant is from the Navajo tradition, a people who lived in the area we now know as New Mexico. They suffered centuries of colonization and conquest from Europeans, but unlike many Native American tribes, they still live for the most part on their ancestral land. The chant is more than likely a part of a much larger religious event called a chantway, according to NavajoIndian.net. We'll sing it a few times.
Taste your tea. Hi, I'm Travis McPhee, and my pronouns are he and him. Now is the time in our service where we come together to bear witness to those joys and sorrows that are too great for any of us to hold alone. If you have written in our book of joys and sorrows today, please come forward to light a candle as I read your entry. Reverend Leslie is lighting a candle, greeting all for Mother's Day with these words of Rebecca Solnit. And so, on this holiday, I annually wish those who are, in some sense, motherless, may you locate the 10,000 mothers that brought you into being and keep you going, no matter who and where you are. May you be the mother of uncounted possibilities and loves. And maybe wish that all those who can have mother the verb in our lives one way or another as something we give and receive, whether or not we have or are mothers. And Perry T. will light a candle. Joy as I celebrate 2 years in recovery. From drug addiction, 5/11/22, and a year since signing the membership book. Please remember to make your 2024 pledge, which is, it goes on, which is vital to the work of MDUUC, and I think that's true. Janice is lighting a candle, hoping for Pete's recovery. He is in Kaiser. Something with pneumonia. He was readmitted yesterday. Please send all your healing thoughts. And Tom Taylor is lighting a candle. We'll take a second to. I could use your support reimagining I'm thinking maybe this word is final? That's right. Final work life. Thank you. And I'm asking Reverend Rodney to light 2 final candles. The first represents all of the joys and sorrows not voiced aloud today, but still present on our hearts. And the second, a reminder of this one imperfect and precious, nurturing, motherly world, and our role in making it more loving and more just. Thank you.
Please stay seated as we sing the meditation song, Let Me by Reverend Leslie Takahashi and Joe Galinas. Leslie and Joe enjoy collaborating on musical adventures. Living with intention means living a better balanced life that's full of meaning and purpose. It means the activities that you're engaging in are worthwhile to you and focused on the betterment. Let's sing it a few times.
Let me know true spirit as my God.
Growing up in the Christian faith, the first formal prayer that I ever learned was what we referred to as the Lord's Prayer. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Maybe you were forced to memorize it too as a child. In short, it's found in two places in the Christian scriptures, a short version in the book of Luke, and one that I was made to memorize is a longer version found in the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 9 through 15. You all have your Bibles out? No? The prayer is part of the famous Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus kind of had his own spoken word Coachella. That's how I like to think of it. He's asked by the crowd, how should we pray to God? And he uses this prayer as an example of a contemplative prayer to the divine. And the words are, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And that's where you stopped if you were Catholic. But if you were Protestant, you continued on. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. One thing that always bothered me about that prayer is that in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, there are full examples where the language used is really unclear as to whether God has masculine or feminine qualities. And yet here is this prayer that arguably is memorized by hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions in the world, and God takes on only a masculine identity. But what about the other parts of this God? In Genesis, for example, men and women are created in the imago Dei, or the image of God, which suggests that God may transcend socially constructed notions of gender. The Hebrew book of Deuteronomy, the fifth book of Moses in the Hebrew scripture, states that God gave birth to Israel, a traditional feminine ability. And in the Hebrew scriptures of Proverbs, we see feminine energy and feminine figures used such as holy wisdom, or chachma in Hebrew, or Sophia in the Greek. All of those assisted God in the creation of the world, at least according to those myths. And while these examples are often debated by better scholarly minds than mine, I do see them pointing us to the same knowledge that our trans non-binary siblings are trying to impart on all of us, that gender is not a binary, and perhaps if we learned how to embrace all aspects of the human experience, regardless of masculine or feminine presentations, we might find wisdom that we currently lack. Perhaps we might even find joy. So today, at this moment, I would like us all to reimagine the prayer of my childhood into one that lifts up the names of the feminine qualities of this God and begs for us to try to do the same for ourselves. I'm reading to you now the prayer from the Dominican Sisters Retreat held in March 1993. It was a great year. At Great Bend, Kansas. A reimagination of the Lord's Prayer. Our Mother, who are in all the earth, holy is your truth. May your wisdom come, your circle be one, uniting heaven and earth. Give us today a nurturing spirit. Heal through us as we ourselves are healed. Lead us into fullness of life and liberate all that is good. For the wisdom, the power, and the presence and the goodness are yours, now and forever. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing,
Good morning. Happy Mother's Day. My name is Mark Chase. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm a member of your board of trustees. This week, I had a conundrum. I had to order a pair of socks. So I did what anyone does. I went online and started analyzing the Yelp reviews and the Amazon reviews. And I found a pair that I liked, but the reviews were somewhat contradictory. Bob from Wisconsin said this was the best pair of socks he had ever ordered. Ted from Florida said 1 star, do not order these socks. I know some of you are worried. Please take comfort in knowing that after much debate and consternation, a pair of socks was ordered, and I look forward to their arrival. When considering a donation to MDUUC, no over-analysis is necessary. No need to check the Yelp reviews. One never has to worry about your return on investment. If you think about the meaningful services, the wonderful educational programming that we have for both children and adults, social justice actions, our shared community, the laughter, the tears, the comfort, this morning, please give whatever you are able to support this beloved community. If you're joining us online at our website, MDUUC, you can go online and check the yellow Give Now button. Here in the sanctuary, I invite the ushers to come forth to gratefully receive your offerings. Please join me in the dedication to the offering. The words are found on the screen. To the work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
So I come from humble beginnings. I'm the eldest of 4 children, the only male identified child, and part of a very large extended family. My father was a police officer, and my mother cleaned homes for wealthy people in our community. My parents have always been hardworking and provided for our family in oh so many ways. Now, as an adult trying to move myself through this broken, frustrating world, I have such appreciation and admiration for their struggles. Everything they did to make sure that I had clothing and shoes, food, shelter, and even the tiny pleasures of childhood, like fresh watermelon on a hot summer day. All of those things mean more to me now than they did when I was a child. My parents are good people who, like many of us, try to do the right things in our lives and find that sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail. My mother worked very hard for all of the extra money that we had in our family, and her job was mentally and physically grueling. The wealthy people of my hometown had very particular ways that they wanted their homes cleaned. My mother would often recount scrubbing floors on her hands and knees to get the grout of showers and tiles clean using a toothbrush. And yes, I'm Southern, and for anyone thinking that that's just Southern exaggeration like we like to do, I will point out to my mother's 2 knee replacement surgeries as proof. One particularly wealthy woman in our town always treated my mother with kindness and was so easy to work with, even though she too had her own special ways. One year, as a kind of bonus, my mother was invited to take me and my 3 sisters to the very fancy country club in our hometown. This was quite an exciting time for me and my sisters, as we were told that there would be an open tab for any treats we wanted at the concession stand, and that we were welcome to swim in the pool all day long. It was a beautiful summer's day, and my sisters and I were in the deep end of the pool, near the poolside table where my mother and her boss sat talking. My mother was wearing this amazing turquoise dress with heels. If you can't tell, I'm gay. I remember her leaving the house to drive to the event and thinking, my God, she looks beautiful in that color. I'm not sure if this was the first time that she too had been to the country club or not, but she was definitely overdressed compared to everyone else. The pool was quite busy, had lots of kids splashing around, and at some point, probably during a rousing game of Marco Polo, I heard a commotion behind me, and I turned to see 2 little legs kicking violently from topside of the water. A child had flipped himself upside down in the water, and while he had a life vest on, for some reason, he was having trouble flipping back around. It was at that moment I saw a beam of turquoise fly over my head and splashed into the pool next to the boy. It was my mother in full dress and shoes. She grabbed the child, flipped him up right side up, and swam him to the side of the pool. I have never been more proud of an individual in my whole life. The strength of character that my mother had in that moment to throw all of her caution and to the wind and embrace a fierceness that I think is on par with the goddess Kali was incredible. I became even more enamored with my mother when I overheard the mother of the boy chastise her for the spectacle she caused. At that moment, she said, "He was in a life vest. He would have turned around eventually." I suppose she had forgot the old warning that you can drown in even a teaspoon of water. Now, I was mostly raised around strong women, but this was my first witness to the power of feminine presence and energy. It didn't have anything to do with this situation. I certainly didn't have anything to do with this situation, but simply bearing witness changed me. My heart was softened that day, and my compassion for others was deeply increased. This was the kind of person I wanted to be. I know that when I witness the horrors of this world, like genocides that are ongoing in Congo, Sudan, and Palestine, and the warmongering of places like Haiti and the Ukraine, my heart takes a beating, and my compassion sometimes becomes strained and tired. My mother taught me that at that moment, the opposite can also occur. When we bear witness to the delights of life and embrace compassion and care, we too can be changed. Perhaps those of you who were with us to bear witness against anti-Semitism this past week at Walnut Creek City Council meeting can attest to the power of collective care and compassion. Our religious traditions are peppered with stories of this kind of fierce manifestation of feminine power. We saw one example today from Hinduism during the Time for All Ages, but that's not the only example. In Catholicism and Christianity, the Mother Mary is often revered as the Queen of Heaven, representing a purity and providing guidance to the believers, seen as a teacher of forgiveness and empathy and humility. In Chinese Buddhism, at least according to one legend, Kuan Yin was a beautiful Indian princess who forsook marriage and the good life to live in a convent in order to become a truly enlightened human being, or a bodhisattva. After having achieved enlightenment and the right, therefore, to enter Buddhist heaven or nirvana, legend has it that while at heaven's gates, Kuan Yin heard the despairing cry of someone back on earth. Upon hearing that cry, she returned to the earthly plane and vowed to stay there through many rebirth cycles to help all those who suffer achieve the same level of enlightenment that she had, so that they too could enter nirvana. Kuan Yin's name means the one who hears the cries of the world. Paganism, an umbrella term for spiritual paths that are deeply connected to the cycles of nature, often revere the divine feminine through various goddess figures. The worship of the goddess in nature symbolizes fertility, abundance, and nurturing aspects of creation. These are all manifestations and representations of a divine feminine power across all of our mythical stories, and they showcase a diverse and richness of all of our spiritual beliefs. Each tradition offers up unique insights into what is considered feminine sacredness. While some emphasize what might stereotypically be maternal qualities, others highlight independence or transformative power, like Kali. They range from fierce protectors to gentle nurturers. I think it's so important to note that these attributes of human expression can be explored and are indeed found in all of the genders across the spectrum. The mother's love of a child and deep desire to protect can be seen in all of us who choose to parent or care for a child. I was reminded today by my colleague Travis that in many of our religious stories, the personas of compassion and love are often portrayed as feminine characters. It's in those stories, those that embrace this fierce femininity, where we lift up the fact that those characters are not willing to take their own individual perfection instead of recognizing their interconnectedness and embracing of a liberation that is more collective. So they are often seen as valuing the group beyond the individual self. My mother's story emerges for me as a radiant thread in my life's tapestry. I witnessed her embody all of those divine feminine qualities with grace and strength. And like a modern-day depiction of goddesses like Kali or Kuan Yin, I saw her wield a maternal instinct that transcended societal boundaries. She taught me community care in that moment. And as I wrote about this, I realized that the divine feminine sacredness isn't reserved solely for one gender or another, but it's actually available to all of us. Just as the myriad of faith traditions lie all of the different ways in which we can express divine feminine energy, I've come to understand that care, protection, and empowerment really doesn't know a gender role, but is woven into our humanity with universal beauty. So on this day, I want to wish anyone and everyone who taps into their divine femininity, whether childless or childful, male, female, or any of the betweens, those who have birthed, those who have lost births, and those who don't want to birth, a very happy Mother's Day.
I love that in so many ways. I just want to say my family of origin includes Chinese and Fijian, South Indian, where we're going to visit them today, as well as Jewish sides. So we really connect to so much of what you said. Thank you, Rev. Rodney. Please rise and embody your spirit for number 8, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit by Norbert F. Kapek. This hymn was written by Norbert F. Kapek, the founder of the Unitarian Church of Prague, Czechoslovakia. And Kapek created many hymns and rituals for his church, including the flower communion ceremony, which we're having on June 9th, to reflect his Unitarian values. He died in 1942 at Dachau after his arrest for speaking out and acting against Nazi persecution.
Happy Mother's Day, and I want to say especially to my mom, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you so much. I really learned from my mom that I am loved, and I think that is maybe the thing that is the most powerful for carrying me forward in my life. May we leave together knowing how loved we all are.
This is for you, Mom. Seht mir doch mein schönes Kind mit den grünen Soderlöchen, blauen Augen, roten Bäckchen. Leutchen, hab er auch so eins? Leutchen, nein, ihr habt keins. Seht mir doch mein süßes Kind, fetter als ein Fetteschneckchen, süßer als ein Zuckerwäckchen. Leutchen, hab er halt so eins? Leutchen, nein, ihr habt keins. Seht mir doch mein holdes Kind, nicht zu müdig, nicht zu wellig, immer freundlich, immer fröhlich. Leutchen, hab er auch so eins? Leutchen, Leutchen, ihr habt keins. Seht mir doch mein frommes Kind, keiner bitte böse 7 wird im Mütterchen so lieben. Leutchen, möchte ihr so eins? Leutchen, möchte ihr so eins? Oh, ich krieg gewiss nicht meins. Komm einmal ein Kaufmann her, 100.000 blanke Täler, alles Gute die soll er, oh, er kriegt gewiss nicht mein. Kaufe sie